If your hit rate of the tests is high enough, I think you can squeeze more with ABO. If your hit rate is bad, then stick with CBO. It never happens that a good ad is not running, it's always running somewhere. Maybe if it died at testing, it's running somewhere else. So like often the first thing that I do when I take over a new ad account, I go like year or two back and I find all ads that are above the target ROAS that spend significantly. I take their post ID, and in most cases like 7 or 8 out of 10 like ends up being performers. People just forget that they had a winner like a year ago. That winner is a still winner. Obviously it's not gonna scale massively, but I have some ad accounts where like those old ads are like running for like a few years. It felt like I got a recognition when Facebook confirmed that a different thumbnail actually means different entity ID, because like I did not know why, but like 4 or 5 years when back in the day when I worked with Yudi, I realized that a different thumbnail can impact the performance of the same video in a different way. So still me and all of my media buyers and my junior media buyers, everybody are picking thumbnails manually. I think it has a positive impact.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Scalability School podcast, your favorite podcast for tactical advice on running your e-commerce brand or agency accounts under that our brand. So here's the thing. We have a legend on the podcast today, and I'm going to pronounce publicly his name properly, or attempt to. Marin Istvanic. Did I get close?
This is perfect.
Okay. Who I have been mispronouncing my good friend's name for 3 years since we've known each other, or 4 years actually we've known each other. So I also, this is a theme of my life, because I also have the owner of Socio, Karen, I've been calling Karan for 6 years. And he recently just had the guts to tell me that I was mispronouncing it. So anyway, here we are, pronounced properly. Everybody knows and loves this guy. I've sent so many people to your YouTube channel to learn how to do Facebook ads. And an absolute legend. Marin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate. I'm not sure how I'm gonna justify all these big words, but I definitely want to return the gratitude, because like I was listening to your podcast, 2019, the e-commerce influence. Probably like I stumbled upon it randomly during one of my, I know, searching on the internet for good content. I was like, wow, how did not know about this guy? That was like in the early beginnings of my media buying, when you were definitely a role model. So appreciate that.
I mean, welcome to episode 1 of Glazing the podcast, where we glaze each other and talk about all the good things. Brad's really smart. Brad's smarter than me. So there's the Brad glaze. So let's just jump right into it. If, by the way, Marin has spoken at 3 events now for the Foxwell founders in Europe, and everybody always comes to me and is like, that was so great, because you're such a tactician, Marin, with your hands on the wheel. So as a tactician, let's get into the debate that everybody wants to know right away, which is ABO versus CBO. Okay. What are your thoughts? We're only going to spend a few minutes on this, but everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So if your hit rate of the tests is high enough, I think you can squeeze more with ABO. If your hit rate is bad, then stick with CBO.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with that, for what it's worth. Like, I know I'm on the opposite side, generally speaking, when it comes to the ABO versus CBO. I think if I had to add my little summary, I think the bet that you're making when you choose between them is that you are going to either be right more often than Meta, or at a bigger scale that kind of offsets maybe the downside of being wrong. And I think you've said this before, right? Like, if that's a function of hit rate, but it's also a function of scale. If you hit a winner that Meta missed on, and it can scale in way in excess of what you spent on the creative test that didn't hit, it probably doesn't actually end up mattering. The only reason I generally start with CBO is, and for a lot of people, is maybe their hit rate isn't great. And it kind of prevents the downside, especially as brands are kind of getting to scale.
Yeah, definitely. So CBO is like more conservative, and like when the budget is not high, when we have too many tests or the hit rate is low, I use CBO. When I'm into scaling and I know that like from 10 tests, I will get like at least 3-4 winners, that means I'm getting 3-4 winners every week. from the 10 test. If I test 20, I get 7, 8. Maybe I will not be able to scale them like, from 100 to 2K. But like if I scale it from 100 to 500 and I have like 7 of those ads a week, that adds up. And I don't need to scale every ad. I need like, I don't know, I need 1, 2 great ads and then I need like 10, 15 supporting winners. And ABO allows me that a bit more than the CBO. But I
Have
definitely
you
agree. Yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to ask, like, have you gone down the route, or do you have a kind of a tactic for? I saw somebody on Twitter X recently say, they will run their creative tests, and then if they don't work, they'll still maybe throw them in to a cost cap campaign, or kind of keep it live somewhere else. Like when I go CBO, it's generally I'm keeping the ads on. I just don't generally turn them off unless there's a good reason to turn them off. Maybe they do end up sucking, or they're super out of season, or something like that. But I'm just wondering if there's like small little tactical things that you pull forward.
Yeah, so I don't have that kind of like zombie campaign. The reason is anytime ads shows attraction, I would take it post ID and I would run it somewhere else. So it never happens that a good ad is not running, it's always running somewhere. Maybe if it died in testing, it's running somewhere else. So like often the first thing that I do when I take over a new ad account, I go like year or two back and I find all old ads that are above the target ROAS that spend significantly. I take their post ID and in most cases like 7 or 8 out of 10 like ends up being performers. People just forget that they had a winner like, a year ago. That winner is a still winner. Obviously, it's not going to scale massively, but I have some ad accounts where like those old ads are like running for like a few years.
Yeah. Do you have a cadence for like going back and revisiting old ads? Because like maybe you guys even have turned things off in the past.
Yeah, that's a good thing. As I said, like there's always ad that was decent. It's always running somewhere. So when I take over, I find those ads and they're always running with some kind of budget, with a different audience, with a different attribution setting, with a different bidding. They're always running somewhere, at least with some budget. So I don't get into position that there's an ad that was good that is currently not active.
Yeah. Well, you said something interesting there. I don't want to, we can start to deviate off the ABO versus CBO a bit here, but you mentioned the different audience, and so I think some people hear audience and they're like, "Wait, you're doing more than just broad." And so maybe just
Yeah.
want to spend a couple minutes talking through that.
Yeah, I know it's 2026, and like if I said that like I'm using interest, people are saying like, okay, what, why? But the thing is, like I find they can have cheaper CPM, they can get me lower frequency, and it's my way of amplifying the winners. So let's say if I have an ad in testing that I don't know it was running for 2 months, then it died. I would take it post ID. I would group it with some other winners that also died, and I would run them with some interest audiences. And as I said, like it's a nice addition. It's not something that's scalable. It's not something that like is massive unlock. But let's say if I'm spending 20K in testing, I'm spending 20K in scaling, and then like there's like 5K a day that's running in interest audiences where I badge the winners.
Are these ads that you're running predominantly?
So I would say 70% of my clients are US, 10% is Canada, 10% Australia, 10% UK.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting about the interest thing. I think I agree with you that there tend to be marginal wins, especially when you're spending at a really high level with interest, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong to do that. So I appreciate you calling that out. So let's talk. Let's transition to talking about tactics that are working right now. There's a lot of things that you talk about um, on a regular basis. One of them is whitelisting at scale.
Yeah.
This is talking about a ton of whitelisting profiles that are running, not partnership ads, dark posts that don't show on the influencer's timeline, multiple influencer touch points in the same session.
Yeah.
So you went and said whitelisting, you spent 1.2 million versus brand, and the cheaper CPC, it was a dollar cheaper CPC and a way better North Beam ROAS at 1.29 versus 0.76. Talk about what whitelisting is scale and your sauce there.
Yeah. So basically, we realized that no matter the client, when we introduce whitelisting, especially from the authority pages. So let's say if you're in pet space, then you find a veterinarian. If you're in a I don't know, pain that you find like with pediatrician, if you're like in a skincare dermatologist, so like those people tend to have like bigger influence on regular users. They add credibility. The fact that when you're running through the multiple pages at the same session, you can see different ads at the same time, although it is the same advertiser, we're just running through the different pages. When you run through the brand page, you can see one ad per session. So it creates that sense that everybody's using the product. So we then just like build a massive flywheel of these influencers uh, that we actually put into every ad account. So like for our internal brand, I think we tested more than 300, 400 whitelisting profiles. So basically every week I'm testing like between 5 and 10 new profiles. And like, again, it creates a sense that like every single authority in this space is using our product. Obviously, this is quite expensive at the scale because, these influencers that are authorities, like I have some girls that we're paying like 20K per video plus usage right. But those are like, those are proven influencers, those are authorities, those are people that I know no matter the ad I launch, it will be a winner. So I pay 20K, but I spend 20K a day. So basically I offset that in a week.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different like levels to this. So I'm curious, like, does the partnership, whitelisting, however you like all of that, does that differ depending on the scale that the brand is at? Like if they're spending less than 2K a day or less than 5K a day, are you approaching in a different direction? It sounds like maybe you try to go for the expert and authority people first, regardless of scale.
Yeah, obviously, I know in clothing you cannot. There's no expert, so you just go people that fit your avatar. Um, Obviously, the less you're spending, the less people you can actually have because they're sometimes more expensive. But we try. I would say like as you scale, you get actually more of those people. So that's the main. It kind of like goes with the volume.
Yeah. And the two follow-up questions to that: how are you finding these people in general? And then the follow-up
Okay.
to that would be, how are you, and I know it depends, you just said it depends based on the person, but like, what does the general partnership agreement look like with that person? It's fixed plus percentage of spend, it's just percentage of spend. I'm
Yeah.
curious what that average looks
Okay,
like.
good question. So first question, how do we find them? So we have for our internal brand, we have like 4 people in the influencer team that is just like finding people and negotiating. We leverage some tools like Facebook Creator Marketplace. It was a terrible tool until a few months. Now it's amazing tool, and my influencer team tells me that like they find more people there than any other software. Also, we started using, I think it's Super Bloom. It's an agency that helps that. Basically, but like we're on that level that we can pay, 4 or 5K for an influencer because we know there's a script that works. Obviously, when you're smaller, it's just like reaching manually to people on Instagram or to Creator Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace is better because these people already know what that process looks like. They already have the pages set up. So it's easier. In terms of the payment, it's mostly so initially we had deals that we pay them for content and then we repurpose that content for an ad. Now we are just paying them to get the content. So you don't even have to post it on your page. I just want your handle and I just want to be able to run the ads through your page. So they give us raw video, we chop it up into 3, 4 different hooks. We send it for approval. We send the ad copy for approval. We send the access to get the request to get the access. Once they approve that, I have the access. I launch that ad as a new ad set in my testing campaign. And literally, there's no brand that we work with that did not have a positive impact from introducing whitelisting.
Yeah. Do you see that does the type of influencer, maybe type is the wrong question, it's like, does the scale of their following matter? Have you seen any
Yeah, great
correlation or not
question.
really?
So um, the big ones definitely work better, but smaller ones can surprise and can also, get you some surprising wins, especially if the video is good. But I still think the sauce is in the script. It's just like this is like amplification. Um, why I don't like running partnership, because when I see a person with brand, it screams that this is an ad to me. Like it just I know this is an ad and I scroll past it. When I see just person, okay, this like looks something that I could engage with, and I think that's why it works. Well, I forgot to answer the question about the pricing. So it really depends. Usually it is a fixed fee. We try to get them on affiliate, like on a percentage of spend, because that's better for me. There's a lower risk, and I'm okay paying you more if you're actually getting me the results. It will be hypocritical for me because I charge percentage of spend. So I think that's a fair deal to get to the influencer. But majority of them are still like, oh, I don't know. I would rather you pay me. And then like in 30 days we evaluate. If we have 30 days access, we evaluate whether the ROAS that they got and the spend is like revenue, whether that offset their fee and whether we actually made money. If yes, then we kind of like try to negotiate. I have some people that like we are extending rights from July last year, because it just works. So it's like running for like 9 months and we're just extending every month.
Yeah, I have one more question, Andrew, and then I'll pause and shut up for a second. But this might transition nicely into one of the follow-up questions here or the next topics. But are you doing anything special with the account structure for these tests, or are they just going into their own? They're going into their own creative testing campaign.
They just go in their own ad set. So each creator is in its own ad set. So if I'm launching 20 tests a week, I have 20 ad sets a week that I set. And I launch tests from Wednesday or Thursday. I avoid launching stuff on Monday and Tuesday because my goal is to get at least one winning variation of these video that they get me. So I know it can sound overwhelming because like I know in a month I could potentially have 100 tests, which is 100 ad sets. So someone could see that and they're like, okay, what is this? But actually out of those 100, I'm getting like, 40 that are decent performers.
Very good background on whitelisting and how it's working for you. So I appreciate you getting into that. One other thing you've talked about is cost cap weekend scaling, which is ASC with cost cap using different attribution windows. So 7-day
Yeah.
click versus 7-day click plus 1-day view. And essentially the different attribution forces people, kind of Facebook, to find different types of people. And with the cost cap, your point is like, look, Meta does this scaling for me. You talk about this strategy and what else is how you do it, how you set it up more specifically.
All right, friends, quick break. This episode is brought to you by Northbeam, the marketing attribution platform that we love over here at Scalability School. If you're a marketer, I mean, you probably agree, right? Incrementality testing is broken. These tests require tons of labor, spreadsheets, statistical reference, and the designing of the test is slow and error prone. How are you supposed to know what to test in the first place, right? There's a million factors that can make incrementality testing difficult. But the good news is Northbeam has completely changed the game and they fixed this. Only Northbeam Incrementality automates your incrementality test design and monitoring while protecting you from the major mistakes that plague incrementality testing. Northbeam builds tests using your own MTA data, launches them directly in ad platforms, and automatically monitors them throughout. If something threatens validity, you're alerted before it ruins the result. With Northbeam, you can launch tests in platform with a single click, saving you tons of time and reducing any chance for errors. And when the test concludes, your results flow straight into your MTA, meaning you can easily see results alongside the rest of your data. Incrementality was broken. Northbeam fixed it. Point is like, look, Meta does this scaling for me. You talk about this strategy and what else is how you do it, how you set it up more specifically.
Yeah. So everybody know that I don't like cost cap for testing, but I really, really love them for scaling. I realized that 2 years for one Black Friday, man was like, okay, I have this scaling campaign, but like I realized that I don't want to have the same ad in a different campaign without a reason. So okay, if it's different optimization, okay, highest volume or highest
Volume and value.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So if I move that, or if I change the attribution setting, or if I add interest, that in my eyes tell Facebook, okay, this is slightly different. So I'm okay with kind of like I have the tests in my testing and I keep scaling them. Sometimes I get from 100 to 300. Sometimes I get from 100 to 5K just because tests work and I continue to increase the budget. When I move the winners into scaling campaign, so my scaling campaign is on 7-day click. I call this winners of the winners. It's like a gladiators arena. It's just one ad set and all of the winners. I don't care which ad is going to win because all of them are winners. And I'm comfortable using cost cap because all of them are winners. So if I put cost cap of 50, Facebook spending 55, I'm cool because it gives me volume, but I know it will never spend 80 because this is a proven ad. So I'm okay, leveraging manual bids for scaling. What you mentioned, Advantage Shopping Plus, the fact is that's the old Advantage Shopping Plus where we could define that percentage of spend for buyers. The thing is, like, I never turned it off. So in 7 out of, like, say 10 ad accounts, I still have that OG Advantage Shopping Plus running. If I do not, then it's just one campaign with one ad set. As I said, I limit it to 7-day click because I found that old Advantage Shopping Plus was doing a bit more retargeting, regardless, similar setup. So I don't want Facebook over attributing on view sales that is not responsible. And what's the beauty of this weekend scaling? I realized that conversion rate is better because more people are on the phone. So I never knew to what extent I can scale on a weekend. I know I can scale, but I don't know whether I can increase from 1K to 2K or from 1K to 5K, and how to increase that budget without actually disturbing it. So if you would like look a graph of my campaigns, Andrew, I think I shared that on the Elizabeth presentation. My testing campaign like goes like this because I just increased the budget of what's working. My interest campaign is like it's always steady. It's always on like let's say 5K. But the cost cap one is like it's like this. On Tuesday it spent I don't know 3K. On Thursday it spent 7K. On weekend it spent like 25K just because it can. And I'm okay getting a slightly higher CPA because it brings me volume.
I have a million follow-up questions and like randomly specific things. So I might be bouncing around a lot here. You mentioned the attribution settings. You mentioned a bunch of different things. Like you could change something about the campaign or the targeting or whatever. Like some of those settings to tell Meta there's something different about this.
Exactly.
Do you actually scale by changing? Like are you setting up maybe new ad sets with 7-day click, 7-day click, 1-day view, 7-day click, 1-day view, 1-day engage view, 1-day click? Are you actually playing with those as a scale mechanism at all?
So my first campaign is ABO testing on highest volume on 7-day click, 1-day view, unless there's too many view conversions. So basically, when I check into the ad account, if there's more than 25% view conversions and AOV is not 400 plus, I would use exclusively 7-day click. If everything looks fine, I would look 7-day click, 1-day view. Then I would move the winners into that audience campaign, as I mentioned. So that's kind of like, okay, that's a different direction because I'm using audience. And then the third direction is this 7-day click on manual bids, which is combining two different things. So I think I pretty much covered that. Sometimes recently I started playing with incremental attribution, or when the AOV is higher or there's a lot of SKUs, then I would play with the volume. But I think I cover like 4 out of 5 things in those 3 campaigns of mine.
So you mentioned the OG AFCs and like the ability to set the percentage. Do you have like a playbook for retention campaigns, or actually trying to go and reacquire customers?
Most of my customers do not want to like reacquire customers. Some I'd say like, okay, but like if someone did not bought from you for like, I don't know, 6 months, do you consider that person a new customer? If they say yes, then I would create a campaign, but I would create a separate campaign that's targeting. I would never allow that to be into my prospecting campaign because you can never trust Facebook with that. If you just go for the lowest conversion. So I would set up a different campaign going only for those customers. And that's mostly, in some skincare or clothing. And also during the promotions, brands are okay. They're fine with going after those customers. So then I would set up a campaign like that.
Yeah. I have a question about just overlap in general. Like you have multiple campaigns, you have a ton of different ad sets going on. Do you concern yourself with overlap, or it's like, hey, the number is going up. I'll pay attention to CPMR or something like that, but like otherwise the number's going up. It's fine.
Yeah, so I think like I definitely track CPMR and frequency, and like I'm cool with leaving an ad active if it has a bad CPA, but it has a very low frequency because it tells me that it's feeding top of the funnel. But I'm not going to turn off an ad that has a good performance just because it has a bad CPMR. And I think that it is healthy conversation that like everybody are starting to measuring that. But I think we are going like in a bit like too extreme that like, okay, CPMR is better than the CPA. That's not the case. Obviously it is important, but it's also important that people see your ads multiple times. And when I have like, 30 different influencer, I have 10 different angles, I have that creative diversification, they're not actually seeing one ad for 8 times. They're seeing like 7 different ads. So I think that actually also is beneficial to an extent Obviously, I'm tracking that with a tool that Andrew and Kurt built, which is super helpful for net new reach. And that's obviously one of the metrics that I measure, as well as the percentage of new visits in Norbeam. But it's not, I'm not going to turn off a good ad just because it has a bad frequency.
Yeah. Okay. Then my last question related to this is, I mean, it's kind of overlappy, but are you using the actual like experiments tab in Meta at all for anything?
No, no,
Okay. Really
not
interesting. So
not
no
running.
holdout tests, no A/B testing directly in Meta.
No, no. If you're doing holdouts, it's mostly through House or Work Magic.
When you've done holdout tests, what have they shown you that's been useful? I ask because there's a lot of discussion about this now, and Northbeam has an internal tool that is doing this, which I think is actually pretty good. And I think it's something that, especially as budgets go up and complexity starts to get bigger, that like it's huge for people to understand, like, okay, look, so much of our traffic from YouTube is actually converting on Amazon or whatever. So like, what types of stuff have you seen that's been surprising or helpful to you?
Yeah. Potentially, I can touch base on the incremental attribution. Again, like I know this is like a hot topic now, but when I do the breakdown in my ad accounts, like incremental turns out to be 90 to 95% of 7-day click attribution. So it's not really, something game changing. I think it's like a tool in a toolbox, but I would not necessarily change my whole ad account to incremental just because the Twitter is talking about it. In terms of the tests, so I did try, add to cart and view content, never worked for me. Like I did 5 tests with 2 different platforms, never worked for me. So I'm not sure how come that's working for Ridge, but I mean, I guess it's working. In terms of the other channels, we found out definitely what you mentioned, YouTube has a way bigger impact on Amazon compared to just Shopify. We found that Google third-party pages, third-party funnels have bigger impact on overall performance than what is visible in the ad account. We also had some success with Vibe, the CTV, but we realized that it's very hard to understand whether Facebook, which is spending like 20 30 times more than the Vibe, has an impact on good performance of Vibe, or Vibe has a good impact on the Facebook. So we are going to do some additional tests there. Besides that, still did not do app loving tests, but that's on one of my clients' maps. So interested to see that, because I know everybody are again think how they scaled uploving. I never managed to scale it. No matter if I'm spending 50K a day on Facebook, I could not get uploving to spend more than 2, 3. So I'm not sure if I'm missing something but yeah, those are kind of like the main takeaways, at least from, a couple of clients that are doing those tests.
The only thing I would say on AppLovin, we've seen similar things to you, where it's like most people just don't hit scale. But we had a conversation with Miranda months ago, and that was like I wrote down I had a whole notebook of notes, which I'm about to have with you. And I went back and I just like picked a couple of things, and the thing that hit the best for us was changing the hooks. We did port over the Meta creative directly, and she basically said, don't do that. But she says like as a starting point, it's fine to do. But that's not where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. The biggest thing that made a difference for us from a creative perspective was literally just swapping out the hook to like be something about addressing the fact that we just interrupted their game. Like, hey, we'll get you right back to your game. Or sorry to interrupt your game.
Nice.
Or like something literally directly calling it out. And it made a huge difference. Like the top performing ads were all starting with that hook, and the rest of the video is the same. So interesting. I'd be curious to hear what you hit.
Then try to get that creator to film a hook, or was it the hook totally unrelated to the creator?
Yeah,
Because if you get like 20 winners, then like you have to ask like 20 people to actually refilm the hook. So was it just generic hook?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. In this specific case, the ones that stood out the most, it was an AI voiceover with creator B-roll. So we were able to
nice.
The videos that were working in general were just kind of like B-rolled with voiceovers. So we were just able to swap out the messaging with an AI voiceover.
That's
but I bet you'd have more
nice
success by like maybe taking your 5 best creators and asking them to film something really specific. That could be interesting. I haven't been able to do that yet. So if you do, you have to let me know how it goes.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you should start it with like, "Hey loser, get off your phone, stop playing video games."
Yeah, you just lost the life.
Yeah, exactly. It's like your
Yeah, we have
kids
a
in
client
front of
that
you, like, why aren't you know, make them feel really
yeah.
bad. That usually works. So let's talk about the hack segment a little bit briefly, which is like, what's the closest thing right now to a hack that you've seen inside Meta? So you change this, it's like, and it is a dramatic shift. What are like 1 to 2 things that you're adjusting that you're like, man, that's really an unlock?
I mean, I like hacks, but like I don't think like hacks are just a nice addition. Like having a proper exclusion, having not reliance on existing buyers, no view conversions, like knowing when to scale, knowing how much to scale, that matters the most. And although I'm a media buyer, like product, offer, funnel, creative, they have way bigger impact than the media buying. I can make results when like client is spending like everything else is dialed in, then the media buying again makes a difference. But at lower level, probably like focus on the offer. Like I seen tremendous changes in the hit rates just by changing the offer. So that's definitely one thing outside of the ad account. Also remember, everything else outside of the ad account has a tremendous impact on the ad account. In terms of the ad account, I still pick all of my thumbnails manually, and like I just kind of like, it felt like I got a recognition when Facebook confirmed that different thumbnail actually means different entity ID, because like I did not know why, but like I like for 4 or 5 years, when back in the day when I worked with Udi, I realized that a different thumbnail can impact the performance of the same video in a different way. So still, me and all of my media buyers and my junior media buyers, everybody are picking thumbnails manually. I think it has a positive impact. Although I must say Facebook is getting better and picking that automatic thumbnail compared to, let's say, a year before.
Yeah, it's funny. You basically don't like hacks, and I agree. Like we put it in there intentionally because it kind of like pushes you to say like pick have an opinion about hacks,
Yeah.
and it's hilarious because like you probably feel like you're repeating yourself pretty often in maybe the content that you make, and you
Yeah.
still get people that are like they don't have exclusions. They're not using seven.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Exactly.
you still see a million people who are just doing crazy shit and wondering why nothing's working. And sometimes it's just like those simple things ends up being the hack for
Yeah.
them because they weren't doing it in the first place. Um, yeah. So no, that's funny. One thing that I'll throw in one little hacky thing, just as something that continues to work for us is just like customers that are uploading images as reviews, just taking them as is and uploading it as an ad. Gets you creative volume, gets you creative diversity. They're probably super blurry, and that's the point. Like it just works really well, and we just keep doing that on repeat.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, there's like like usually I found that for most problem solving product, images do mostly retargeting. We use the top of the funnel, while like on clothing, jewelry, images actually do the prospecting. So we found that like I could not, like, there's one client, like they're spending 50K a day, like 99% of my ads are videos. I could not get images to work. And then we just replicated, it's a beauty client. We just replicated, it felt like a story. It was like a text, organic text overlay, like what you would put on a story, and it was just an image. And like those ads are getting, I would say like 50% of delivery on story and reels, and they feel organic. And this is something that we finally managed to break out with images and got some traction. Again, again, think because it looks organic.
It's so interesting. I've been literally in the last, I mean, I've been thinking about it for longer than this, but like in the last 2 weeks, I've had this like weird obsession with like formats, where like you can communicate the same message in a bunch of different ways, but also the type of content that somebody's consuming, to your point, like stories and reels is different. Like that. Zach's a great example of this. Like they have compression socks for Hollow,
Yeah,
and there's probably 80-year-old dudes that are buying it and 30-year-old nurses, and
exactly.
the type of content that they're consuming is very different.
Different.
It's like they expect a different format. And so maybe it's the same, it ends up being the same message, which your legs are going to hurt less or whatever it is. But how you communicate it and just even the style of creative can unlock different pockets of audience. So I like that. That's a good one. Nice. And those are easy to make too. Like those, you
Yeah,
just
exactly. They're
grab a
super
still
easy.
and slap a question
Yeah,
and answer on it.
exactly.
Nice.
So how are you using AI, by the way? Like, and by the way, if you haven't checked out the new Foxhole podcast, releasing or will be released by the time this comes out, AI D2C WTF, which is a new podcast I started up to talk about all this stuff even more deeply. But how are you using AI now? Is it with reporting or creating different variations, or is it both, all of that stuff? And if so, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm not on the level that Will is. Like when I see his conversation, Will, that was on some of your podcasts, and like when I see the presentation that he did in Lisbon, I was like, okay, wow, like I would never be able to do that. I did actually follow his template and I managed to get close, but I'm personally nowhere near that. What I like to do it is like for research, for like synthesizing the data. For example, I gave it my whole YouTube video for my whole YouTube channel, and like I told it to create my media buying philosophy. It created like 50 pages document, and then I uploaded that to Claude. And now, like, whenever there's a question, I can get an answer from that, or like I can get a new script for YouTube based on my whole knowledge. That's one thing. The other thing is in terms of the ads, I gave it my top 5 spending ads, and then I gave it one of my template of a listicle page that we are running, and I told it to change the reasons based on the angles from the ads. And that landing page is currently like that listicle is outperforming our current listicle, by 10% of click rate, and like it's getting a nice traction in Norbeam as well. So that would be one like practical example of me using AI. Besides that, like when you're doing media buying, there's not much you can do compared to when you're a copywriter or developer or creative strategist. So it's just like mostly trying to kind of like improve my workflow and save some time either on analysis or on the reporting or synthesizing the data.
I might be leaking something here. What do you use for creative reporting?
It's mostly Motion or Atria, depending on the client.
Yeah. Motion has an MCP connector now. This is what I'm potentially leaking. I don't know if it's available to everybody, but they gave me access to it. It's awesome. It's like, I don't know if you use
Nice.
the chat feature inside of Motion at
I
all,
did not
but it's
know.
really nice. You should reach out to them and just ask if they can turn on the MCP connector for you, because it can pull all those AI tags. So like here's an
Oh,
example.
nice.
You mentioned landing pages. You could
Yeah.
say, hey Motion, can you go grab the top trending tags for me in the last 30 days for my messaging angle? Okay, so it's going to grab that and it's going to say, here's how the spend breaks down as a percentage of your ad account for this angle, this angle, this angle. You take the top spending one, and then it can grab the messaging. So it can pull the scripts for those ads, and it can give you the scripts. And then it can synthesize it and write a landing page in the customer language from those top ads. If you wanted to, if you could set up a schedule in Claude, like you could have that do it, and just like present you a new landing page every week. That's a little
Yeah.
overkill probably, but it's been fun.
Yeah, basically that's what I did, but I did manually through Manus. Hey, here are the ads. Hey, can you transcribe them? Hey, here's the landing page. Hey, make the landing page. So basically it was me involving, but if I can do that without me actually instructing all of that, that would be amazing. So I'll definitely check that out.
Manus. I haven't played with Manus too much, but I feel like Zuck is gonna
Me either.
like ban me from the world if I don't if I don't start using it.
You know they're going to be talking about it at the Meta Performance Marketing Summit quite a lot. So outside of the things that we've talked about, I think one of the things that people look to you for is very, uh, you know, deep tactical knowledge and deep understanding of this. How do you recommend people upskill themselves on these things? Like, I think there's so many sources. I mean, but I know that you sort of set out in building your name around education as well, right? Like you're very good at that. How do you recommend people start to get better at this and really start to dive in?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. When I started, I went through the like whole Google and Facebook literature support to understand how the auction works. Obviously, you don't have to do that. I did that like 8 years ago. But like now, I'm like spending 5 mil, 7 mil a month, and I'm still listening, to 5 different podcasts on media buying. I'm gonna probably not heard probably 90% of the stuff I already know. But hearing hearing Brad how he does, that overlay of a testimonial image. Okay, that's a cool idea. Hey, doing this with MCP with Twitter, you basically just need one good idea because there's not much that you're missing. Obviously, if you're on a lower level, you have communities besides the podcast. Obviously, Foxwell founders, shout out. If you're not there, you have to be there if you want to be serious about DTC and ecom. And you have a library of free content on YouTube. Like there's literally, you can start a brand tomorrow. You can start being, I don't know, whatever you want because the information is already out there. You just have to, stay disciplined, stay consistent, and try to like put it into action. It's not enough that you just like read about AI. You just have to try to build something with it. And I think that like, transition from just absorbing the information to using information is actually what makes the difference.
Well, Marin, thank you so much for joining us. Very rich episode full of so much knowledge and so much information. And, I'm so grateful to you for all that you've taught me, all that you've taught founders, and all that you've now taught listeners to the podcast. So thanks for coming on. And for those of you that don't know Marin, I recommend following him on all the channels that you can, because I always learn something from your content. So thanks for putting it out there, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. I really enjoyed this episode. It was really good conversation. I think we covered a lot from the tactical stuff, tactical all the way to the holistic. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, just hit me up on Twitter. I'll promise I'll respond unless you try to sell me your DM setting service.
maybe throw in a couple arguments on X as well. But a little banter back and forth.
All right, take care.
This episode is brought to you by the Foxwell Founders membership that Andrew and his wife Gracie run. It has been absolutely pivotal for not just the Homestead team, but the Easy Street Brands team. We've had, I don't even know how many members are currently in there that are a part of our ecosystem. But when it comes to anything from learning ads to understanding what's going on to building an agency to knowing retention, it's been absolutely useful for our team when they get stuck or they need help to just go there and resource all the other experts. So definitely would recommend it for anybody that's looking to, take it a step deeper, try to get a little bit more knowledge on growth marketing and all the world D2C is.
Yeah, I think one of the most incredible things about it is you can just open up the Slack group every single day. You can pin your favorite channels for the topics you care most about. And every day there's going to be somebody who just because they want to contribute something valuable to the group, you can go learn something every single day and it's going to be extremely useful. There's some ballers in there that you just get the benefit of learning from that for the cost, you couldn't pay them that for their time, but through the membership, you get access to some incredible people and tons of resources.
I think the biggest resource to me too is the events that Foxwell Founders does. They've been able to do some, even in Wisconsin, even in the boring state of Wisconsin, which is pretty awesome, getting people together in person and able to have really just honest conversations of what's going on, what's working for them now, where they're at in their business, and knowing that there's going to be, like Brad said, some real killers in the space in this membership that can help and are willing to take the time and help. So that's been a huge part of why a lot of our team have really enjoyed it as well.
And the applications are now open if you're looking to join. So
Foxwell Founders, foxwellfounders.com. Go check it out. Go apply.
The only way that we grow this podcast is by you sharing it with your friends. Honestly, reviews kind of don't really mean anything too much anymore. They're really meaningful, but they don't do a lot for the growth of the podcast. And so sharing YouTube links, sharing Spotify links, sharing Apple, whatever we call it under the podcast app now, anything you can share, the better we're going to be. Guys, anything else you want to say on this?
Yeah, please go check us out on YouTube. Rack up those views for us. We'd love to see it. And then subscribe. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube as well.
And I relentlessly refresh the YouTube comments because it dictates my mental health for the day. So please say something nice about all of us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening, honestly.